Okay, so in this video, I'm gonna make your guys' photos go from this looking more like this, just using Photoshop and Lightroom, and then maybe a little bit of AI generative Photoshop beta program. But let's get right in. Okay, so to start off with, I'm gonna go over the concept of what I use when I'm looking at my photo, trying to discern whether or not it is good enough for me to even edit. I'm not gonna start editing something that doesn't have the same potential as a different photo. I'm gonna start with the best option that I have. So we're gonna go over here, go to DCMI, and then I'm gonna look at these photos. I'm gonna look at what I have, see if there's better photos than other ones. And what I'm gonna go with, I'm gonna look through, for example, of this one. Or in this one, I went through and found the best version of this photo that I could. Now, actually, I don't really remember exactly which photo it was. All I know is that there's a white line right here. And if I go back over here, I go back up, I went through a lot of these. That's the point. I went through a lot of them to figure out which one out of these will be. I went through a lot of these to figure out which one would be the best for the photo that I'm trying to imagine. I think I went with this one. I like the aggressive guiding lines that direct your eyes. And then the subject was really good. The only thing was it was a little too big, so I knew going into this I was going to have to crop and make it a little bit more horizontal. So this is what I did. The original photo went from this. This is the original photo. I did crop it down to that. I had to do a lot of cropping and rotating it. Rotated it about 0.6 right there, or 6.3 right there. This is the original. I knew going into this, I wanted to make sure the tree disappear. I wanted to make sure there's less details in this, so I wanted to remove the car in the background. I wanted to simplify the photo, so your only thing that you're looking at is the GT3 RS. So, remove the rest of it. What I did is used my tool right here, my healing tool. I got rid of all the clutter on the bottom and then in the background. And then what I did over here is I brightened it, corrected my colors the way I liked it. And then this is where I was happy with the photo. I exported it, went to Photoshop Generative AI, removed the car in the background, as you can now tell. And then all I did in this version, I also, let me show you the original. It takes a second. Right there, I made sure the wheels now pop, and I made sure that line back here was a little less harsh. That's all I did. Okay, so I'm gonna show you guys how from beginning of a photo to the end photo, how to make sure it goes just like this, and I break it down into simple steps. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pick out a photo. I'm gonna open up this. I could pick another GT3 RS photo, but I'm bored with that right now. We're gonna do something different. I'm gonna pick out probably a Ferrari photo. I do like this GT3 RS right here. I do think this could be a really good photo. Don't worry, when I'm viewing on this, it's not as high quality. And it likes to go, if I hold this for a second, it's going to go pink. Just because these are RAWs and the computer doesn't quite know how to handle the quality of a RAW. Okay, time to edit this one right here. 8668 is going to be the photo I'm going to start with. I like everything about it. When I'm shooting with my camera, there's a couple different things I'm using on my camera. I personally use this bloom kind of effect. It kind of washes out some of the light, kind of expands it. In my opinion, it looks like old film or kind of a movie aesthetic. I am shooting with that, so it adds a little bit of noise inside of my photos, just a tad little bit. Nothing that's going to be taking away from the quality of the picture, at least in my opinion. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to crop and make sure everything is perfect. Now, as I were to rotate this, you'd see that I'm going to be looking for the lines in the background as my guiding lines for whether or not this is straight. Now, when I was shooting this, I definitely was using the lines of the background. You can almost see that perfectly, that gray line's at the same height as that one. This one is pretty good. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crop it down just to make sure that we're only focused on the point of the actual shot, which is the car. I don't want to see the other stuff in the photo. I'm gonna crop it down just a little bit more, crop it in. I personally like this. I think for some reason the car needs to be rotated over just slightly, not by much. 0.10 will do fine. I think that's lined up perfectly. Okay, now the very first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into editing the light of the picture. It's the very first thing I edit every single time before I touch colors, anything else. I want to know what the light of this photo is gonna be. Now, jacking up the exposure bleeds it out. Too underexposed, too moody. In my opinion, this is a little bit overexposed, so I am going to jack down the exposure just a little bit, not by much. It's very dramatic, anything I do on this, so I'm going to be going like 0.14. I want to play with contrast. Contrasty, makes the white shine out, bleed it out. It's 2-to-1 layer. I don't like it, so I'm going to up the contrast just a tiny bit, not enough to get rid of the details in the wheels. Okay, highlights. Highlights, in my opinion, look good on this one. You could lower the highlights and see a little bit more details on the clouds. Personally, I don't care about the clouds. I want it to look like a perfect, beautiful, washed out light. This one's really impactful. Shadows down is going to make sure you can't see the details in the wheel. Shadows up too much, and you could only see the details. I'm going to go down just a tad bit, but not enough to get rid of the detail of the wheel right here. Okay, going back out. We're going to go to whites. Personally, I'm going to look at both of these. I think whites look better up on this one, and then we're going to go blacks down. That's where we're going to play with. I like this a lot as a good base. Even just now, if I show you guys the before, after, it's just more impactful. There's a little bit more contrasty, in my opinion. It looks significantly better. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play with the colors over here. A couple different colors I could play with. The background of this photo is very impactful of yellows. That's a lot of it. First thing I'm going to do is play with is, do I remove it completely? No, because it looks a little weird. What I could do is bring it down. I could bring the luminance up or down. I think up is slightly better. And then I'm going to make the hue of it slightly more orange, but not enough to where it looks red. I think that's going to be enough where it still keeps all the details in the car, but it doesn't take away from it. In my opinion, I don't want my eyes to be drawn up to this. I want it to be drawn to this. The orange in the background of this cone is extremely aggressive. It's actually drawing my eye there a lot because it's almost the most amount of color in the entire photo. When you're shooting a white car, it's kind of hard to draw in colors unless you are drawing in blue from the sky, which in my opinion, I do not want in this photo. Now, I could completely remove the lighter blue right here, this teal. I personally kind of like it in there a little bit in the mirror. I'm going to leave a little bit of it. And then I'm going to either drag down the brightness or move it up. In my opinion, it looks a little bit better up. Okay, greens are going to be super impactful because greens are the background. I like the color of it. It looks like I didn't completely wash it out by moving this up a little bit. I might turn it over to make it a little bit more aggressive. That's about it. All I need to do on this one. Orange is going to be super impactful because it'll be the top of the trees. And then on top of that, the cone and this little marker. Now, I actually might move this up, but I'll show you how I contrast these. I like the colors of the turn little light right here on the front fender, and then the brake caliper, same with this little spray paint. In my opinion, that spray paint doesn't take away from the photo. What I am going to do is I'm going to remove this spill right here and this line right here. I don't like those two. Same with something I might do over here. That orange cone, I'm not liking though, so I'll isolate that later and turn down the saturation of it. Okay, looking pretty good so far. The only last thing I want to play with is reds. You might not think there's reds in this photo, but if you look in the background, all oranges are affected by reds, and even a little bit in the ground, we're actually seeing some reds. Personally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with this and just see if it looks better on one side or the other. Personally, in my opinion, I don't think the reds really matter on this one. I'm going to turn it over a little bit. I might move it up and down to see where I play with it. It's really affecting the side marker, so I'm going to keep it and make sure it looks bright and orange and bronzy, and then a luminance slightly up. So people call this HL or HSL, which is hue, saturation, luminance. It's pretty much your color mixer. It's going to help identify the best colors and help you play around with them. This also affects the building a lot. I don't want to go too much that way, but too much that way, I don't like either. So we're going to turn it down. It is kind of fallish, so I think I could get away with colorizing that a little differently. Okay, now that we have it, I want to make sure everything looks pretty good. I like it quite a bit. This is going to be the part where it's the most impactful. We're going to start getting rid of the little details. When you're actually breaking down your photo, you're going to notice that you have little details that you just don't like. This spill is attracting my eye for some reason. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm also going to get rid of all these lines right here. Just don't like them. They're taking away from the concrete. This little spill right here, this is really minute things in my opinion, but it's that thing that just like takes your car or car photography or any photography over the edge in my opinion. Cool. I'm going to see if I can get rid of this cone by using this. If I cannot use this tool, what I'll do is I'll just make sure it's not as strong. In my opinion, what I just did was enough to get rid of the impactfulness of it. Okay. Linear gradient is something I like to play with, but not too harshly. I'm going to try to draw the user or the viewer's eyes up without taking away from anything. I'm going to add another linear gradient just so that we are selecting everything on the ground. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it down. So darker on the foreground, going to make you go to what's in focus and what's better in light. A little bit of darkness goes a long way here, and I don't want it to make it too contrasty. And I'm going to play with the highlights a little bit. Shadows I don't want to mess with too much. and a little bit more in the blacks. So the before, we're already seeing a crazy difference. This is the before, this is the after, and we're not even done yet. We haven't even done everything I want to. Another thing I'm gonna play with is linear gradient from the sky above. I can add a little bit more natural light by turning up the exposure. I don't want to over bleed it out, and I don't want it to bleed onto the car. Too far down, it looks too like it bleeds up. Too far up, it looks like you're just selecting the top. So I want something in the middle. I'm gonna play with it a little bit right here. I want to see how much I can get away with. Don't just want to play with exposure on this. It is bleeding out the top of the roof line, but in my opinion, it's also clearing up and taking a little bit out of the left side of the car. Exposure out, and then highlights are going to be the two that I'm going to play with on this one. And it's going to give me the look that I want out of this. I like this. In my opinion, if I go to the before, again, go to the after, the roof line's still there, the car's in focus, everything is exactly how I want it to be. It looks really good. Last thing I'm going to do is I want to play with the wheels a little bit. Now, the wheels you can see, but they're black. It's going to be really hard to see otherwise. I'm going to pick on this. I'm going to do a little bit of a gradient right here. Select this. I just want to select the wheel. I don't want to select anything else in the body or the exterior. I want it to be the entire wheel, so I'll do something more like this. I want to bump the exposure, the contrast up just a little bit. Contrast is going to be really impactful on this one. Highlights doesn't really affect it, if you notice. Don't want to go too much. Don't want to bring down shadows, or else it's all going to be hidden in a shadow because it is all shadows. Whites look really good on this one, and then blacks, just to turn up. Everything that we turned up is to offset the contrast of the blacks that I'm bringing down. So again, if I go to let me go to this and select the thing I just viewed. Let me view it on and off. So this is off, on, off, on. It's just enough, and I want to make sure the wheels look the same. So I'm going to give the same love, copy, paste. Bring it back here, select it. We're going to go to 100%. I'm going to drag over to the thing that I am working with. Select this. I'm going to bring it down to make sure it's the same shape as the wheel. Okay. We've already done a lot to this thing. We're almost 100% done. I just like to fix all the other little details. In my opinion, this number right here doesn't really add anything to the car, so I might just try to erase it. If I do, completely erased, it just hides some of that little detail. I don't need this to be a branded post for them. They already have enough on social media, in my opinion. I'm going to hide this on over here. It's going to grab it from somewhere else on this wall. I should be able to completely remove it. I like that. Less details, the less little things in this photo, the more the things that you care about are going to pop out and look better. In my opinion, if you go from this to this, it's already astronomically better photo. I really love how this one turned out. Super happy about this. We're going to go to this one in particular is one I would love to critique. I've done a lot to this photo. If I show you guys the exposures I played with, again, up the whites, black, turn down the blacks, shadows are down, highlights are super up, but I really love the colors and the juxtaposition between the brightness of this. If I should show you guys the original, wasn't that vivid. Now it feels more vivid, more like, in my opinion, like out of a movie scene. Again, I played with the exact same things I played with in here. I turned up a lot of things, I turned down a lot of things, made sure the wheels were in focus, changed the hue of the color a little bit so that the wheels had more of an orange caliper versus yellow caliper. Aesthetically, it is more appealing. It shows the fall. It's horizontally perfect. I love a lot of things about this photo. The only thing I might do now is, I think the other orange cones are taking it away. So what I might do now is crop it down a little bit, and then it's simpler and a little bit more appealing in my opinion. Again, though, play with photos a lot. Like, my recommendation is any photo I've taken, I feel like I could still improve upon it just a little bit. If I show you the original of this, I've done a lot to it to make it pop and got rid of a lot of the details, added a lot of masks highlighting the ground or the sky, and played with it quite a bit. But with you guys, what I'd recommend is, like, find a photo you guys like and then play with it a lot. When I tell you, like, everybody has their own style, and it takes a little bit to find what your style is, it does. But I recommend, it doesn't hurt to try new things. When you're clicking around on these photos, I want you to play around, click on them, see what you can change. Like, is this beneficial or negative? This was all done with AI generative. The entire background pretty much was. The original photo was only this big. So play around with that. Play around with different tools you guys have access to. I don't know why my screen's clicking 10,000 different things right now. Again, here, this is a Miata photo I took. Oh, this photo. Beautiful photo in my opinion. This photo took a lot. Original to what I did now. It took a lot to play with this one. I had to up the exposure of the car a little bit, turn up the contrast a little bit, highlights, shadows. I made it brighter. I did the exact same thing I showed you guys down here, where I turned down the exposure of the leading line of the ground up to the car. I turned down the exposure over here as well. This is very atypical. I only did this because of the lighting in that room was really bad. And then again, I upped the wheels. I made sure they're bright and shiny. And then I had to crop this photo down quite a bit. There's a lot more in this photo that I could have done, but in my opinion, I might have just added a little bit just so it has a little bit more breathing room. But I wouldn't want anything more than this. It's already a lot going on in this photo, and I actually kind of understand why I want like this. I don't really like the line down here. But again, if you look at it, it takes a lot to really play with a photo and try to make it good. Make it your own. Keep messing around with it. And if you guys have any other like tutorial questions of like how do I make car photography pop, please feel free to ask in the comments. I'll happily go through the comments, and then if you guys have like questions or tips, I'd love to give my advice. I'm not a professional. I just try to play with different things, and it's taken me a lot of time to try to develop my own style. But again, all these before and afters, it looks like completely different photos. And it's taken me a long time to really work on these and try to get them to be something of my own. All right. If you guys like these kind of content, if you guys want more photography style content and not just me working on cars, let me know. This is going to be a little bit different style of video, but it's also stuff that's inside of the wheelhouse of being a content person around cars. You have to kind of get good at photography, especially car photography. If you like the content, drop a like. If you guys want to see more, please drop a subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
Solitary, new whip with the interior cream. Like one more, I drop the cherry. This shit burn.